I'm gonna say this as clearly as I can. I hate Elden Ring, I hate Dark Souls, and I hate Sekiro. So why can't I stop playing them? Now seriously, that's a real question. My blood pressure has hit unnatural numbers. I'm gonna turn on stream one day and it's gonna look like I got hit with the death note, but really it's just the stress from playing these games. I'm done. Okay. Always next time, right? Oh. So why? Why would I do this to myself? I barely understand the story of these games. The gameplay is kind of rough sometimes, and to be honest, there's definitely better games out there that you can finish in 1/10 of the time. So why do I keep doing this to myself? Why do I love being angry? Bro, do you know how many games are out there? At least more than 5. There's no shortage of games out there. You don't need to play Elden Ring. You don't need to play Sekiro or Dark Souls or any of those games. You can play Spider-Man or God of War or SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom.
Can you shut the fuck up?
So why would I choose to play Elden Ring instead of these other games? Well, the answer is pretty easy. No other game I mentioned makes me feel the way Souls games make me feel. Let me explain it simply. When I finished God of War Ragnarok, I died like about 25 times. The first Souls game I ever finished in my whole life, Elden Ring, I had a similar death count. Just add a 0. I died 250 times before finishing Elden Ring for the first time. I died 97 times on Melania, 32 on Hoarah, 12 on Radagon Elden Beast, 16 on Malekith, 5 on Morgott, 20 on Radon, and the other 60 deaths give or take, which is general stuff. That was the first time playing Elden Ring. Now, I'm in the thousands. And like, you would think after dying so many times, I would despise the game. But that's not what happened at all. I can feel like my entire bloodstream boiling. You know how people say it as a joke, or not as a joke, but like as an expression? Oh, he made my blood boil. My hemoglobin is hot! Every time I died, I took that as an opportunity to learn something. No matter if it was my first death or my 50th. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure years of my life were taken off because of these games. But I was on a mission. If I could explain my relationship with Souls games in a nutshell, imagine you're married to a woman, right? And she's very cool, and she looks good, and she has a lot of lore, and weapons, and spells, but she's also got an insane right hook that she tends to use on you, and you also can't seem to get away from her. Does this analogy make sense? There is a fundamental difference between just playing a game on hard mode and playing a game that is hard mode. Part of the enjoyment of Souls games is the fact that you can't run from it. You're forced to do one of two things. Either get good, or start looking for things to make the game easier. I used to despise Souls games when I was younger. I remember I bought Dark Souls 3 in 2016 when it dropped, and I also broke my controller in that same month, and I haven't really touched the game since then. I didn't really get into Souls games until I bought Sekiro in 2021, and I had a lot of fun playing that. Don't get me wrong, it pissed me off, but it felt really gratifying to beat that game completely on my own merit. No special items, no this, no that, just straight hands. It felt amazing beating bosses after 30 tries of getting slumped, and the thing is, that feeling stays with you even after you beat the boss. That euphoria remains, which is 1000% an intended aspect of the design, and it's 1000% a part of the process.
Said we had a bad kickstart, shooting cast Pixar, haven't been a match in a minute, no she left, but I couldn't put our past in the ditches.
A big part of playing Souls games is the process. Finding a boss, getting dogged by the boss, repeat, get dogged again, rinse, repeat, about a dozen times until you win. But there's an important part of the process that doesn't really get talked about. The break. Let me give you an example. I bought Sekiro in 2021, and I noticed as I was making my way through the game, I was actually getting better. To the point where I was able to do the Headless Ape fight, one of the hardest fights in the game, on the first try. I was actually having a good time. Sure, I would die to bosses, but that was part of the experience. Until I reached the final boss, the Sword Saint. Ishin destroyed my spirit, and I mean destroyed my spirit. It's the kind of destruction you get when you gotta pay 60% of your check to alimony. This fight was so difficult that to this day, that is the hardest boss I have encountered in any game ever. And if you want a real picture of how difficult a fight Ishin is, I bought Sekiro in 2021. I reached Ishin 3 weeks after I bought the game. I did not beat Sekiro. I did not beat Ishin until 4 months ago. I'm so serious. Now you're probably thinking two things. The first is, damn, you're terrible. And the second is probably, damn, you're terrible. But the third is probably, why is there such a big gap of time? And the reason is, I took breaks. I took a lot of breaks. And sometimes I spent longer on the breaks than I did on the game. And you know what? That's completely fine. I bought it. I can do whatever I want with this game. I think you're meant to take breaks with games like this. Not everyone's a streamer who's making the GDP of Yugoslavia every 20 minutes, so not everyone has the incentive to just bash your head against the boss wall. If I'm being honest, not taking a break isn't necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes you just want to push forward because you can visualize the win. But me personally, if I spend more than 2 hours on a boss, I'm gonna turn into Franklin Saint. The bad one. Souls games are interesting. They're some of the few games I've played in my life where I have no problem struggling through it. I know that behind that multi-day, potentially multi-year amount of boss attempts, behind it is going to be a level of success and fulfillment that is not really provided by any other type of game. Any modicum of success you earn in that game is completely from you. There is nothing the game just hands you. You gotta earn everything. But if I was gonna boil everything down to one simple thing, I would say that the most important thing I learned from Souls games is to not be fair in the face of adversity. You're gonna encounter a lot of bullshit in your life, and the majority of it is going to be unfair. That doesn't mean you can't be unfair back. When you get kicked out of college, summon that plus 10 mimic. When your girl cheats on you, use that flame grant me strength. And most of all, when you're at a funeral, you use that blasphemous blade. Souls games are some of the most rage-inducing, blood pressure-inducing, ulcer-producing, and fun games around.
What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Why?
They are games that will make you happy, sad, dejected, and most of all angry. But I'll still keep playing them. Not because I love being angry, but because I love overcoming adversity.
Maybe that's not what I'm used to. I wanna go back to the old shit me and my cousins gon' mama be used to. I only got one more chance to butter my life, I already used to. I can tell when you tell me your feelings, you're serious about it, and that's why I'm starstruck. I remember my uncle was crossing the road on his own, that's when a car flipped. My music becoming the way I express my emotion, I'm telling dog shit. You niggas can have it a free cause, I'll be the nigga to talk about all shit. I'll tell you the like